The galaxy had always been curious about Earth. Nestled in an unremarkable corner of a spiral arm, it was a planet rich with water, oxygen, and thriving life. To the great civilizations of the stars, Earth should have been just another developing world to catalog and watch. Yet something about it drew attention. A sense that the humans who lived there were different from the countless species scattered across the stars. The Galactic Council, a body made of the most powerful empires and federations, ordered quiet observation. No one wanted to risk open contact. Instead, small scout teams were dispatched in sleek stealth vessels. Their mission was simple: record, report, and remain unseen. At first, the scouts sent routine updates. They described Earth's cities, its cultures, its strange balance of cooperation and conflict. Some laughed at the human reliance on combustion engines and crude satellites. Others noted the humans' creativity, their restless drive, and the way they seemed to adapt to every challenge their planet threw at them. Then the transmissions began to falter. The first team, a crew of 4, sent a final message that cut off, mid-sentence. The log ended with the words, "Approaching low orbit," followed by silence. The Council assumed a technical failure and dispatched a second team. The second group managed 3 days of observation before their ship disappeared from the Council's tracking grid entirely. Their last signal carried a single word in panicked voices: "Contact!" before the line went dead. By the time a third and fourth group vanished, even the most skeptical members of the Council grew uneasy. The disappearances were too precise, too consistent. Entire crews did not simply vanish without leaving debris, signals, or escape pods. Something was happening around Earth, something that no one could explain. Whispers spread through the council chambers. Some believed Earth was protected by an ancient defense system left behind by a forgotten civilization. Others argued that the humans themselves were far more advanced than their crude technology suggested, hiding their true capabilities behind a mask of simplicity. A few even suggested supernatural explanations, though such claims were quickly dismissed by scholars. Yet the facts remained. Every scout sent to Earth had vanished. One council member, a seasoned strategist from the Vayari Accord, summarized the unease best. "We do not lose ships," he said firmly during a closed session. "Not like this. If we do not find answers, fear will do our enemies' work for them." Despite the growing risk, the council pressed forward. More scouts were chosen, this time from different civilizations, each equipped with advanced cloaking and counter-detection technology. Their commanders swore they would not fail, but they too vanished. What made the disappearances most unsettling was the lack of evidence. No wreckage was ever found. No escape capsules drifted through the void. No distress beacons flickered in the dark. It was as if the scouts had been erased from existence the moment they drew too close to Earth. Civilizations began to grow nervous. Smaller powers quietly suspended their observation missions, unwilling to risk more ships, but the larger empires pressed harder, refusing to let the mystery remain unsolved. For them, ignorance was more dangerous than risk. Meanwhile, fragments of intercepted transmissions began to surface in black markets and shadow networks. Half-garbled audio clips carried chilling words, mentions of shadows moving against the stars, or human figures appearing on decks where no humans should be. Some claimed the humans had found a way to infiltrate ships, stepping aboard without using doors or airlocks. Though unverified, these fragments only deepened the fear. Earth itself gave no sign of awareness. To outside eyes, the humans continued, their ordinary lives unaware of the eyes watching from above. Their satellites orbited, their planes crossed skies, and their radios buzzed with endless chatter. Yet beneath that apparent normalcy, something was happening, something only the vanished scouts knew and could no longer tell. In the halls of the council, the debate raged hotter with each disappearance. Some demanded the mission's end before more lives were lost. Others demanded escalation, Larger ships, heavier surveillance, and deeper scans of Earth's hidden defenses. But all of them agreed on one thing. Whatever lurked on or around Earth was no accident. The vanishings were deliberate, and somewhere on Earth, unseen and unspoken, humanity was watching back. The Galactic Council had expected answers from their missions, but instead they were left with silence. Each scout ship lost over Earth became a shadow haunting every discussion. The disappearances were no longer viewed as isolated failures, but as part of a pattern, deliberate, calculated, and unsettling. In the vast chambers of the Council, where representatives of dozens of civilizations gathered, unease began to grow. The long benches filled with hushed voices, each delegate whispering to their aides. Reports of the vanished scouts were read aloud, their details chilling in their simplicity. There were no wrecks, no signals, no survivors, only absence. Absence is worse than destruction, murmured Chancellor Reinl of the Haloran League. Destruction leaves evidence, patterns we can understand. Absence is something else entirely. The chamber fell quiet as the weight of his words settled over them. Some factions pushed for caution. They argued that Earth should be left alone, that whatever force protected it was beyond their understanding. But others refused to accept ignorance. To the stronger empires, knowledge was power, and power could not be surrendered. Earth's secrets, whatever they were, had to be uncovered. The Council ordered more missions. This time, larger vessels were dispatched with the most sophisticated stealth systems in existence. They carried equipment designed to detect energy fluctuations, hidden weapons, even distortions in gravity fields. Yet these ships too were lost, vanishing from the records as though they had never existed. The effect was devastating. Commanders, who once demanded answers, now hesitated before signing deployment orders. Young officers whispered in corridors about the planet that swallows ships. Engineers ran countless tests on the cloaking systems, insisting they were flawless. And still, nothing explained why Earth could erase entire crews from existence. Rumors began to spread through civilian populations across the galaxy. Merchants repeated fragments of intercepted transmissions to anyone willing to listen. Pilots told tales of ships that strayed too close to Sol and never returned. On some worlds, Earth became the subject of fearful legends, an unassuming planet guarded by unseen hands. Yet for all the fear, curiosity only grew stronger. Some empires viewed the disappearances not as a warning, but as an opportunity. If Earth truly possessed a hidden power, then discovering it could tip the balance of galactic politics forever. Within the Council, the debates grew heated. The Tavar Dominion pressed for military escalation. If scouts vanish, then send warships, their representative growled. Overwhelm Earth with force. Nothing survives against the Dominion fleet. But others pushed back. The Seralone envoys, known for their patient strategies, countered sharply. Warships vanish as easily as scouts if we do not understand the threat. To attack blindly is to invite disaster. The chamber split. Arguments echoed for hours, and still no agreement was reached. The mystery of Earth was dividing the most powerful body in the galaxy. Meanwhile, scattered fragments of data continued to surface. Some showed distorted images of human cities viewed from orbit, frozen in static as if the recording had been corrupted at the moment of capture. Others carried half-formed words from scouts, strained voices describing figures standing in the void or machines shutting down without reason. Each fragment hinted at something deliberate, something that reached into ships and minds alike. The growing fear was not limited to the Council chambers. Traders began to chart longer routes, avoiding the Sol system entirely. Independent surveyors quietly removed Earth from their navigational charts. Even pirates, who normally cared little for danger, began to speak of the planet with unease. Earth, once dismissed as ordinary, had become infamous across the stars, yet the humans themselves remained silent. To all appearances, they continued their lives without knowledge of the galactic attention fixed on them. Their radio waves carried songs and chatter. Their space agencies launched small probes into their own solar system. Their scientists spoke of reaching Mars, not of foreign eyes watching them. But the silence was unsettling in itself. If Earth was unaware, how did the scouts vanish? And if Earth was aware, why did it not speak? One council analyst summarized the mystery in a single chilling question. Do the humans know we are here, or do they already know everything? The council could not ignore the question. Fear was spreading not just among the smaller powers, but within the empires themselves. Leaders knew that if they failed to act, rival civilizations might seize whatever secret Earth guarded. The disappearances had started as a curiosity. Now they were a contest of pride, fear, and survival. The council prepared for escalation, but none could agree on what form it should take. Each passing day, more voices whispered that Earth was not merely a developing world, it was a trap, and the galaxy, despite itself, was caught in its snare. The council chambers had grown accustomed to silence after each grim report, but this time the atmosphere shifted. A fragment of data retrieved from one of the vanished scout ships had finally made it back. It was incomplete, distorted by interference, but it was something, proof that the mystery surrounding Earth was not simply a technological failure. The fragment was projected across the hall, a shaky image captured moments before transmission cut off. Through static, the planet Earth could be seen, its blue oceans and cloud-wrapped continents glimmering under the sunlight. The recording focused on the northern hemisphere before cutting abruptly to darkness. Then came the sound. A voice. Not alien, not distorted, but unmistakably human. It was calm, almost casual, speaking in a language only partially understood by the translators. The words were faint, but they carried an unmistakable tone of warning. Delegates leaned forward, straining, to catch meaning from the broken audio. The message was short, no more than a few seconds, and then silence. "What was that?" demanded the Dominion envoy. "How does a primitive world broadcast directly into a military vessel?" No one had an answer. The fragment became the most studied piece of evidence in the galaxy, but it only deepened the mystery. Some argued it was coincidence, a broadcast intercepted at random. Others believed it was deliberate, a direct intrusion into the ship's systems. Either way, it was undeniable proof that humans had touched the mission in some way. Theories multiplied. Some said Earth possessed hidden technologies, relics of an ancient race. Others whispered of psychic abilities strong enough to interfere with machines. A few even suggested that humans themselves were not what they seemed, that their simplicity was an illusion masking something far greater. The Cerulean envoy spoke with their usual caution. If the humans know of us, then they are choosing silence for a reason. That reason may not favor us. The Tevar Dominion scoffed. They are primitives. They hide behind tricks. If they can send a message, then they can bleed. Yet, behind their bravado, even the Dominion ships avoided approaching Earth directly. Outside the council, the fragments spread like wildfire. Smugglers, data brokers, and scholars each claimed to have their own interpretation of the human voice. Some insisted it was a warning. Others swore it was an invitation. A few claimed the words translated to something far darker. But all agreed on one thing. Humans were no longer silent. A quiet fear began to grow among ordinary citizens. If humans could erase ships, if they could intrude into secure transmissions, what else could they do? Entire worlds that had never heard of Earth. Before now whispered the name with unease. For the first time, members of the council considered the possibility that the disappearances were not accidents, not natural phenomena, but intentional acts carried out by the humans themselves. That thought changed everything. If humans could act deliberately, then, they were not simply defending their planet. They were controlling the narrative, deciding who returned and who did not. The Council faced a dilemma. To do nothing was to let fear spread unchecked, weakening their authority. To act rashly was to risk walking into a trap they did not understand. Each empire waited for another to make the first move, unwilling to be the next victim. Then came the second fragment. A freighter, passing near the edge of Sol's system, transmitted an unusual signal before vanishing. The recording showed empty, space at first, and then figures. For only a heartbeat, vague shapes appeared outside the freighter, impossible in the vacuum of space. They were human in outline, and then the freighter was gone. The Council analysts dismissed the image as corrupted data, an illusion caused by interference, but the civilians who saw the leaked fragment believed differently. To them, the humans were not bound by physics as others understood it. They could appear where they pleased, take what they pleased, and vanish without trace. The legend of Earth grew. Some called it the Silent Planet. Others whispered of the Vanishing Men. Myths sprouted faster than truth, but all carried the same message. Earth was untouchable. The Council tried to contain the panic, but they could not silence a galaxy already listening. Delegates left the chamber with unease written on their faces. The Tavar Dominion still growled for war, but their fleets held back. The Saralun argued for observation, but their agents refused to go near Earth. The smaller powers pleaded for answers, but none were given. The humans had spoken, if only briefly, and the galaxy trembled at the sound. The Council's great chamber was filled with the hum of restrained arguments. Every empire had spent weeks circling around the problem of Earth, yet no one dared to take the final step. The fragments, the human voice, the shadowed figures, were impossible to dismiss, but equally impossible to understand. Fear gnawed at even the boldest delegates. Finally, the Saralun envoys proposed a solution. Their diplomat, cloaked in pale robes, spoke with measured calm. We cannot rely on scattered fragments. We require a deliberate approach. Not scouts, not spies, but an official mission. One that shows strength and unity, and one that can withstand whatever waits on that world. The chamber erupted. Some shouted agreement, desperate for answers. Others recoiled, unwilling to risk their fleets. The Tavar Dominion sneered at hesitation, their envoy's voice booming. We should send an armada, burn their planet until nothing remains but ash. If humans are the ones who erase our ships, then fear alone must be their weapon. A tide of fire will strip them of that illusion. But even the Dominion's threat rang hollow. Their fleets had not moved. They, too, feared being swallowed by the same silence that had consumed the scouts. At last, after hours of bitter debate, a compromise formed. A joint expedition, one ship from each of the major powers, would travel together into Sol's system, a balanced force, strong enough to deter ambush, yet small enough to avoid declaring outright war. The Saralun argued for caution, the Tavar demanded firepower, and the smaller nations simply begged that their representatives not be chosen. The final roster was assembled with care. From the Saralun came the vessel's Silent Gaze, known for its advanced sensors and stealth. From the Tavar came the Iron Fang, bristling with weapons, its captain eager to prove Dominion might. The Union of Vaynar offered the Star Wind, a versatile frigate whose crew were veterans of countless exploration missions. And the Ilyari sent the Song of Dawn, a diplomatic ship, elegant and cautious, its emissaries sworn to seek peace where others sought war. 4 ships, 4 crews, bound together, by suspicion rather than trust. As preparations began, rumors swept through the galaxy. Citizens whispered of the last expedition, convinced it would never return. Merchants speculated that if Earth truly held some hidden power, whoever survived might claim it. Soldiers joked nervously about humans who could walk between stars. The crews themselves carried heavy hearts. None were volunteers. Each had been chosen by decree, their loyalty to their governments outweighing their personal fears. In the docking bays, hushed conversations echoed. Some admitted they would rather face open war than set foot in Sol's system. Others dreamed of glory, imagining that they would be the first to crack the riddle of Earth and carve their names into history. Departure day arrived with solemn ceremony. The 4 ships aligned in formation beyond the edge of Council space, their captains offering stiff acknowledgments but little warmth. The fleet's path was clear, a straight course into the Sol system, a cautious advance, and, if fate allowed, direct contact with humanity. As they entered the void, silence fell across the Council chamber. Every delegate, every observer, every citizen waited. All eyes turned toward the stars, straining to imagine what the expedition might find. The journey itself was uneventful at first, and that unsettled them more than any danger could have. Days stretched into weeks, the vast dark swallowing their hopes and their fears alike. Each ship maintained constant watch, but no anomaly appeared. No interference, no vanishings, nothing at all, until they reached the threshold of Sol. The instant they crossed into the system, instruments went wild, sensors scrambled, navigation warped, and for a heartbeat every ship reported readings that made no sense. Phantom planets, impossible energy spikes, ghostly figures flickering across their view screens. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything steadied. The 4 captains exchanged tense reports. None trusted their instruments. None trusted each other. But all agreed on one fact. Something was aware of them. The Song of Dawn's emissary broke the silence. "We are not alone, and..." For the first time in recorded memory, the galaxy's greatest powers trembled at the thought of meeting a human face-to-face. The 4 ships crept deeper into Sol's system, their formations tight, weapons armed but restrained. Their arrival should have been met with silence. According to the most recent human transmissions intercepted centuries ago, Earth was technologically primitive, barely capable of orbiting its own moon. Yet no one aboard the expedition trusted that assumption anymore. The silent gaze reported first. "Multiple satellites in orbit," their sensor chief whispered, though her voice carried across the channel like a stone dropped into still water. "Not debris, functional, networked." The revelation sent a ripple of unease through the fleet. If Earth truly possessed an orbital web, then humans had advanced far beyond the outdated records. The Iron Fang's captain grinned at the news, though his grin was sharp and dangerous. "So they hide teeth after all. Good. Let us see how sharp they are." But no human vessels challenged them. The satellites remained distant, shifting their orbits in subtle patterns, as if watching. Then the Starwind's crew detected a broadcast. At first it seemed like background noise, a wave of low-frequency transmissions scattered across multiple bands. But when they refined the signal, words emerged. "Unidentified vessels," the voice said, in perfect galactic standard. Calm, direct, undeniably human. "You are trespassing. State your purpose, or you will not leave." The fleet fell into stunned silence. Humans were not supposed to know their language, not supposed to command such authority. The voice was not a plea or a warning, it was an order. The emissary aboard the Song of Dawn responded with practiced diplomacy. "This is a joint council mission. We come in peace, seeking understanding. We wish to speak." A pause followed. The crews held their breath, every eye fixed on the comm displays. Finally, the human voice returned. "You will speak when we decide. Follow the path we set. Do not deviate." Moments later, their navigational systems shifted on their own. Invisible hands rerouted their courses toward the third planet, Earth. Every attempt to resist failed. The ship's engines responded only to the path provided. "This is impossible," muttered the Silent Gaze's captain, staring at her console. "No signal could override our controls, not at this range. Not unless—" She stopped herself, unwilling to name the thought aloud, as the fleet was pulled toward Earth. The planet itself came into view. It was both familiar and alien to them. Green continents, blue oceans, swirling white storms, a world alive and vibrant. Yet above it, in low orbit, vast structures gleamed. They were not crude stations or fragments of metal. These were deliberate, advanced, and powerful. Orbital platforms arranged in patterns that seemed almost ritualistic. "Impossible," hissed the Tavar captain, his arrogance cracking. "No record shows this." But denial could not erase what all of them saw. Earth was defended. Then came the second transmission. "You have entered uninvited," the human voice said. "For generations you have sent your spies, your thieves, your hunters. None have returned because none were welcome. Do you understand?" The emissary from the Song of Dawn swallowed her fear and replied carefully, "We do not deny our mistakes, but we are here openly now to speak, to learn, to—" "Enough," the human interrupted. The voice was not angry, yet it carried a weight that silenced every soul in the fleet. "You will be given one chance to explain. Choose your words with care." The transmission ended, leaving only the sight of Earth growing larger on their view screens. On each ship, silence pressed, like a physical weight. Crews exchanged glances, heavy with dread and awe. For the first time, they understood why the scouts had vanished. Humanity had not simply destroyed them. They had chosen to erase them, to control the very flow of knowledge leaving their world. The captains gathered on a secure channel, their voices tense and brittle. Some urged retreat, others demanded negotiation. A few whispered of preemptive strikes. But deep down, all of them knew the truth. There would be no retreat. Not unless humanity allowed it. As the planet filled their vision, as the strange orbital structures aligned to receive them, one thought echoed through every mind aboard the fleet. Earth was not the backwater world they once believed. It was a gatekeeper, a riddle, and perhaps a power greater than any empire had ever faced. And now, at last, they would meet the humans who had chosen to step from the shadows. The 4 ships descended under the invisible guidance of forces they could not comprehend. Their thrusters flickered with power, but no command from their crews could alter their course. Earth itself seemed to draw them in, patient and unyielding. On the Song of Dawn, the emissary tried to keep her voice calm. "They are not disabling us," she said, though her hands trembled against the console. "They could have destroyed us already, yet they choose to bring us closer. That means they want us alive." "Or they want witnesses," replied the Iron Fang's captain. His words struck the others harder than any cannon fire. As the planet's curve filled their view, the orbital structures revealed more detail. Some were vast rings with surfaces that glowed faintly, shifting with energy. Others resembled towers that extended from the upper atmosphere, tethered to Earth below like anchors. They were not random stations or weapons. They were part of something larger, something designed with purpose. Suddenly, the guidance systems released them. The ships regained full control, though none dared deviate. Ahead, one of the orbital rings opened like an iris, revealing a corridor of shimmering light. "This is an invitation," murmured the captain of the Silent Gaze. His words carried no triumph, only awe. The 4 ships entered the corridor together. Inside, their sensors failed. No readings, no data, only silence. And yet when they emerged, they were no longer orbiting Earth. Instead, they hovered near the far side of the moon, facing a fleet, not human ships as they understood them, but constructs of breathtaking scale. Vessels that dwarfed their cruisers, their surfaces seamless, their shapes unlike any known design. Some resembled blades of silver light, others geometric monoliths that pulsed with energy. They were not primitive. They were beyond. The human voice returned, not from a single broadcast, but from every channel at once. You seek to understand what became of those who came before. This is your answer. One of the human ships moved. It glided forward silently, positioning itself opposite the Iron Fang. The Tavar captain bristled, pride battling with fear. His crew whispered warnings, but he silenced them with a gesture. The human vessel pulsed once, and space itself seemed to shiver. Instantly, the Iron Fang's shields collapsed, its engines sputtered, and every weapon went dark. No explosion, no visible attack, just silence, as if the ship had been turned into a drifting hulk by a single thought. Gasps erupted across the fleet's comms. Crews shouted, captains swore, the emissary herself froze. Then, just as easily, the Iron Fang reawakened. Shields flared back online, engines roared, weapons powered. The human ship drifted backward, silent, unthreatening. "This is mercy," the voice said. "This is restraint. Do not test us further." The Tavar captain's arrogance shattered. His voice cracked as he muttered to no one in particular. We could not stop them. Not even if all our fleets combined. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had advanced beyond the galaxy's assumptions, and they had hidden that strength perfectly. Every vanished scout, every unanswered probe had been part of this strategy. The emissary forced herself to breathe. "Then why show us this?" she asked. "Why now?" The voice grew quieter, though no less commanding. "Because you keep sending eyes into our skies. You will not stop. So now you see. Now you know. And now you will decide." A silence followed, heavier than before. The captains realized what was happening. Humanity was not only revealing its power, but offering them a choice. To carry this knowledge back to the council, or to challenge it and be erased like the scouts before them. The emissary leaned forward, speaking into the calm. "We choose dialogue. We choose to learn. We do not come as conquerors." The human ships did not respond immediately. Instead, the corridor of light reappeared, opening a path toward Earth itself. The voice returned one last time, soft yet unyielding. "Then come to the surface. Meet us if you dare." The ships adjusted their course without hesitation. The choice had been made. They would meet humanity face to face. Yet as Earth's oceans and continents drew closer, every crew aboard the fleet felt the same chilling thought. This was no negotiation. This was a trial. The alien ships descended cautiously through the atmosphere, their hulls rattling as they pierced the thick blue skies of Earth. For many of their crews, it was the first time they had breathed air so dense, so alive with oxygen and moisture. The planet below was vibrant, almost overwhelming in its abundance. Forests stretched endlessly, oceans shimmered like polished stone, and vast cities gleamed with a strange mixture of ancient and impossibly advanced design. The emissary pressed against the viewport of her vessel, stunned. The cities were not, sprawling in chaos like those of many galactic powers. They were integrated with the land itself, towering spires that glowed with clean energy, massive green terraces rising alongside them, and transit lines that glided smoothly without a hint of smoke or sound. It was civilization woven into nature, not forced upon it. Their landing pads were prepared on a wide plateau surrounded by mountains. Human ships, sleek and silent, hovered nearby like guardians, watching every movement. None raised weapons, but the implication was clear. One wrong step would bring consequences. The four ships settled gently. Ramps extended, and the alien envoys emerged under the pale morning sun of Earth. Waiting for them were humans, not in armor, not armed with visible weapons, but clad in simple uniforms of black and silver. Their eyes glowed faintly, enhanced by technologies the aliens could not name. Their posture held the weight of discipline, yet none were hostile. One human stepped forward. She was tall, her hair bound back, her expression calm yet unyielding. Her voice, when it came, was the same they had heard through every channel. "Welcome to Earth. You came seeking answers. You will have them, but you will leave with a burden." The emissary bowed lightly, the only gesture of respect her people shared across cultures. "We are honored. I am the emissary of the Concord. We seek only to understand why those we sent before never returned." The human woman studied her with unreadable eyes. "They came with lies on their tongues and conquest in their hearts. They thought we were weak because we were silent. So we silenced them." The alien captains stiffened. The words were blunt, undeniable. The emissary forced her voice steady. "And us? We are not armed for war. We came because the council feared the unknown." The human nodded once. "Then you came as they did, but without weapons drawn. That is why you stand here breathing. But do not mistake restraint for weakness. We guard more than Earth. We guard a legacy." With a gesture, she led them down a polished path toward the city. The aliens followed, their eyes darting to every detail. Humans walked among them, carrying tools that shifted into shapes at will, speaking languages without barriers, children running freely without fear. The aliens could feel it in the air, an unspoken confidence, a strength not of numbers but of certainty. Inside a towering hall carved with symbols of stars and ships, the delegation was shown a vast display. It shimmered to life, revealing images of Earth's history, wars, struggles, collapses, recoveries. Then came the silence, the long centuries when Earth appeared dormant to the galaxy. But the truth unfolded. Humanity had not been idle. They had built inward, perfecting technologies, reshaping themselves, preparing for the inevitable day when the galaxy would come to their skies. "You see," the human woman said, her voice steady, "we did not vanish. We chose silence. We chose to learn every lesson our history had to teach, so that when others arrived, we would never bow." The alien captains exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected to find survivors of a forgotten world, grasping for relevance. Instead, they faced a civilization that had mastered patience and used secrecy as a weapon sharper than any blade. The emissary found her voice again, though it quivered. "If the galaxy accepts this truth, then there will be peace. Humanity will have a seat among the powers." The human's eyes narrowed, and her words carried the weight of finality. "We do not ask for seats. We take only what is ours to protect. And what is ours is already more than the galaxy dares imagine." The silence that followed was unbearable. The aliens realized with growing dread that this was not an introduction to a new power. This was a warning. The hall fell into silence. After the human envoy's words, her voice echoing against the stone and steel that seemed to hum with ancient power, the alien emissary and her fellow captains stood frozen, their minds racing. They had expected secrets, perhaps hidden defenses or strange cultural rituals, but not this. Humanity was not simply another civilization awaiting recognition. They had already declared themselves beyond the need for approval. The emissary swallowed hard. If humanity has chosen to rise again, then the galaxy must know. There are councils, treaties, and laws to prevent chaos. Will you honor them? The human woman's gaze was calm, unwavering. We honor truth. We honor survival, but we will not chain ourselves to rules made in our absence. When your councils ignored our missing colonies, when they debated and moved on, we learned what your laws are worth. We are not bound by them. The words landed like stones in the emissary's chest. Around her, the alien captains shifted nervously, their skin paling or bristling in instinctive fear. She realized then that every step they had taken on Earth had been permitted, not granted. They were guests only so long as humanity willed it. The envoy gestured, and the walls of the hall shifted seamlessly, revealing another chamber. At its center floated a projection of the galaxy itself. The stars glittered like scattered diamonds, the familiar spirals stretching outward. But this was no ordinary chart. Red markers flared across entire regions, expanding like storms. These, the human said, pointing toward them, are the places where your scouts vanished, not just here on Earth, across systems you do not yet understand. You thought we were only here, clinging to one fragile world. You were wrong. The emissaries. Breath caught. She stepped closer, her tendrils trembling. This cannot be. These sectors are claimed. There is nothing in your records. There was nothing because we erased our traces, the human cut in smoothly. For centuries, we have spread quietly. Lost colonies rejoined, ships built in silence, technologies perfected far from your eyes. The galaxy never noticed because it was too busy watching itself. One of the alien captains barked, voice cracking under strain. You mean to say you already controlled entire regions? The human nodded, and her faint smile carried no warmth. Control, defend, protect. Call it what you will. What matters is that humanity no longer waits to be discovered. We are here and we are everywhere. The chamber grew heavy with realization. The emissary understood now why no scout had ever returned. They had not simply been killed or captured. They had stumbled into a civilization that had chosen its own terms of survival, one that revealed itself only when the time was right. The emissary spoke carefully, her words chosen with precision. Then this meeting is not only for our sake, it is a message. You mean for us to carry your truth back to the galaxy. The human inclined her head. Exactly. You will tell your council, your allies, your rivals, humanity has risen. We do not ask for permission, nor do we threaten without cause. But if the galaxy seeks to test us again, it will vanish into silence as the scouts did. The alien captains exchanged glances of dread and awe. They knew what this meant. Humanity had become something different, something the galaxy had never faced before. An empire of silence, patient, yet unstoppable. As the meeting ended, the emissary's mind swirled with the weight of her task. She had come seeking answers, and she would leave carrying a warning heavy enough to shift the balance of galactic power. When their ships finally departed Earth, the emissary looked down one last time at the blue world. It no longer seemed fragile. It seemed like a heart, beating strong enough to send ripples across the stars. She whispered to herself, not daring to let her crew hear. The galaxy thought Earth was silent, but it was listening. And now, it speaks. The stars swallowed, the ships, carrying them back into the endless dark. But the emissary knew the truth could not be hidden again. The age of humanity's silence was over. The age of humanity's voice had begun.